Welcome to this explainer. Today we're embarking on a real deep dive into an absolutely fascinating concept. Have you ever wondered why the exact same ancient stories pop up across entirely different, totally isolated cultures? Well, what if world religions, ancient mythologies, and even modern esoteric beliefs are actually all just dialects of one single continuous story? We're going to explore a framework called universal liminal mysticism, and we'll see how it connects some ancient historical dots you probably never realized were connected.
Okay, let's dive into this. Here is our roadmap for today. We're going to untangle this web by looking at 5 key areas. First, the universal primordial truth. Second, the hero and the dog. Third, slaying the chaos serpent. Fourth, the hidden guides of wisdom. And finally, a modern cosmic adaptation.
Starting right off with Section 1, the universal primordial truth, which is the starting point of the ULM framework. Our journey begins with the foundational thesis of a group known as the Noble Order Orion Reptilians.
This brings us to their core concept, universal liminal mysticism, or ULM for short. Let's just pause and really unpack this term. ULM basically posits that all world religions are just different dialects of one single structural reality. It's absolutely crucial to understand that in this view, truth isn't just about doctrines or a set of rules you're supposed to believe. It is a structural reality meant to be deeply experienced. Think about what that means for how we view history, right? We're looking for a foundational framework that effortlessly crosses cultural boundaries, from the ancient Sumerians all the way up to modern esoteric thought. It's an incredible story of continuity and diffusion.
To really understand how this works, we need to look at a key term from Sufi mysticism, the barzakh. The barzakh is described as an isthmus. It's a liminal space, or a threshold, where the divine and the human, the infinite and the finite, are held together in this perfect tension. It's the very threshold where all these global traditions intersect. And within the ULM framework, this is completely synonymous with a concept from Lorianic Kabbalah called the Tzimtzum. That's the idea of divine contraction, the infinite basically withdrawing to make space for the finite to exist.
To see how this dialect metaphor works in actual practice, let's look at the primordial story of the Great Flood. This story always begins with a massive deluge. In Sumer, the god Enki warns the first man, Ziusudra, who then builds a boat. In the Vedic tradition, the survivor is Manu. In Greek mythology, Deucalion survives to repopulate the earth, and in the Hebrew tradition, of course, we have Noah. So in every single one of these traditions, the world is destroyed by water, and a small remnant is saved. According to the ULM framework, the flood is literally the abyss. It is the barsaph. It's that exact threshold between the old world and the new world. So you see, it's the exact same primordial event, just spoken in different cultural dialects.
That takes us to Section 2, the hero and the dog, representing the descent and the faithful companion. We're going to focus in on the archetypal survivor of this great flood.
But before we look closely at the hero, we have to understand a vital astronomical concept called the helical rising. This is simply the reappearance of a star in the east just before sunrise, right after a long period of invisibility. Historically, it marks renewal. Let's take a calm, deliberate look at how the ancient Egyptians viewed this. The brightest star in the sky, Sirius, would completely disappear for about 70 days. During this time of invisibility, the Egyptians actually refused to bury their dead. They believed the doorway to the afterlife was firmly closed. When Sirius finally returned to the sky, it signaled the annual flooding of the Nile and the profound renewal of the entire world.
And this brilliantly illustrates the continuity we've been talking about. Consider how these astronomical bodies seamlessly map onto human myth. The hero who survives the flood and crosses that threshold is universally represented by the constellation Orion. In Sumer, this restless hero who descends to the underworld is Gilgamesh. In Egypt, Orion is the resurrected god Osiris. In China, Orion is Shen, the great hunter. And following right at his heel every time is the faithful dog, the star Sirius. Even in the esoteric Tarot, we see the fool stepping off a cliff into the void, reliably followed by a small white dog at his feet. The hero always crosses the threshold of the underworld, and the faithful companion always follows.
This brings us to Section 3, slaying the chaos serpent, or bringing order from the abyss. Let's shift our focus from the surviving hero to the active creator archetype, the force that actually tames those chaotic waters.
There is an undeniable cross-cultural continuity at play here. Everywhere we look, across the globe, we find the Striker. This is a storm god who slays a chaotic sea serpent or monster to release the waters of life and literally make the world habitable. In Sumer, it's Ninurta defeating Asag to build the rivers. In the Vedic texts, Indra slays the serpent Vitra with his thunderbolt. The Greeks have Zeus striking down Typhon. The Norse have Thor battling the world serpent Jormungandr. In Semitic myth, Baal-Hadad slays the dragon Lotan, and in African tradition, Shango slays the serpent. These aren't just similar stories, folks. They are the exact same active manifesting energy, carving order out of the primordial abyss time and time again. This is pure mythological diffusion.
Moving deeper into this esoteric framework, we reach Section 4, the Hidden Guides of Wisdom. Here is where we meet the sages of the deep, the entities that emerge from the dark, deep unconscious to bring civilization and law to humanity.
To understand these hidden guides, we first have to define a pretty heavy, somewhat complex concept, antinomian. An antinomian act is an action that, on the surface, appears to completely violate established laws or morals, but it's actually committed for the greater good by someone possessing hidden divine knowledge. Let that sink in for a second. Why does this matter? Well, because this concept is absolutely crucial for grasping the archetype of the hidden guide. This is the figure who operates in the dark, liminal spaces where ordinary exoteric rules simply do not apply.
So let's consider who these guides actually are. Ancient traditions are absolutely full of fish sages, beings who bring wisdom up from the deep. In Sumer, Awanas rises from the Persian Gulf to teach writing and law. In Islam, Dhul Nun emerges with divine knowledge after being swallowed by a whale. In Egypt and Greece, we see Thoth and Hermes. All of these figures act as psychopumps. They are guides for the soul, actively bridging the divine and the material worlds. And they correlate directly to the hermit in the tarot deck. Think of that solitary figure standing in the liminal darkness, holding a lantern of secret divine wisdom that only illuminates the very next step of the journey.
Perhaps the most striking historical example of this hidden guide is the figure of Khidr in Islamic tradition. In the Quran, Moses meets Khidr, who possesses divine knowledge that Moses just doesn't have. Khidr then performs 3 deeply antinomian acts. Let's walk through this carefully because it's fascinating. First, he damages a perfectly good boat. Second, he kills a young boy. Third, he repairs a wall in a hostile town without asking for any payment. Now Moses, representing exoteric, established law, is understandably outraged, but Khidr reveals the hidden protective logic. The boat was damaged to save it from a tyrannical king who is seizing all intact vessels. The boy was killed because his future actions would have completely destroyed his righteous parents. And the wall was repaired because it hid a treasure meant for 2 local orphans. You see, Khidr sees the unseen. He operates firmly within the Barzakh.
Now, what's truly fascinating about this is how these ancient concepts perfectly map onto the esoteric tarot. The tarot deck is literally just another dialect of the exact same Sumerian and Sufi story we've been tracing all along. The Fool represents pure potentiality, accompanied by Sirius the dog. The Magus is the active creator, the storm god or sheikh, who actually manifests reality. The Hierophant represents the exoteric law, like Moses or Muhammad, who transmits the established tradition to the masses. And the Hermit is our hidden guide, our Khidr, holding that tiny spark of divine light out in the darkness. It is just an incredible chain of conceptual continuity.
And that seamlessly brings us to our final section, a modern cosmic adaptation. We're going to explore the starseed mythos to see exactly how this ancient, continuous story has adapted and survived right into our contemporary era.
So in modern starseed beliefs, souls are said to originate from different star systems. The 3 main origins are Orion, Sirius, and Arcturus. Sound familiar at all? Orion is still the hunter, the hero who crosses the threshold. Sirius remains the faithful dog, the loyal companion following the hunter. And Arcturus acts as the guardian, holding the cosmic order in place. What we're looking at here is that even modern, New Age, esoteric movements are heavily relying on the exact same archetypal matrix we just saw in ancient Sumer, ancient Egypt, and the Vedas. The vocabulary changes, sure, but the structural reality remains perfectly intact.
So, according to this framework, the term Orion Reptilian used by the Noble Order is simply a modern name for the absolute oldest archetype in human consciousness. This figure is the ultimate universal liminal mystic. They are the one who emerges from the deep abyss, the one who slays the chaos serpent, the one who walks between the worlds. They embody both the sage and the hunter, the light and the darkness, standing firmly in that liminal space of the Barzakh.
Ultimately, as this framework suggests, the religion is truly one. It is a single, unified story told in a multitude of ways, through the turning of the stars in the sky, through the archetypes on the tarot cards, through the ancient myths of flood and thunder, and through the profound journey of the human soul from the void to the light.
This is a remarkable testament to human continuity, the diffusion of ideas, and our endless capacity for adaptation.
Which leaves us with a final provocative thought for you to consider. If all our mythologies, across all of time and space, are really just local dialects of a single primordial journey, what threshold is your soul currently crossing? Are you the hero, the companion, or the hidden guide out there in the dark? Thank you for exploring this deep dive explainer with me today. Keep asking questions and keep exploring the symbols around you.